Your furnace costs too much, breaks down, and still leaves your feet cold. But medieval folks stayed warm without any of that. These 15 cheap medieval heating methods kept them cozy for almost nothing. They worked back then, and they still work now. No danger, no hassle, just easy ways to stay warm. And the first method, it's using the straw as an insulation. Straw was the unsung hero of winter warmth. Before fancy fiberglass insulation or spray foam, people turned to what they had in abundance: leftover plant parts. Medieval builders stuffed straw between wooden wall frames, under floorboards, and inside roof spaces. The trapped air inside each straw stem worked like tiny pockets of insulation. Basically, the more air pockets, the warmer the space. You could say medieval houses were strawsome at keeping in heat. The method was surprisingly effective. Tests done on rebuilt medieval-style houses show that straw-packed walls could reduce heat loss by 30% compared to plain wooden walls. That difference meant survival during harsh winters. Not just for walls, straw found its way into people's clothes too. Poorer folk would stuff straw inside their outfits for extra warmth. Medieval fashion tip: nothing says winter ready like looking like a scarecrow, but feeling toasty warm. Some clever homeowners packed straw between 2 layers of cloth to make mattresses and seat cushions that insulated from below. This method kept the cold floor chill from seeping up through benches and beds. Replacing damp or rotted straw became a regular autumn chore. Before fall, cleaning meant pumpkin spice and sweaters. It meant, quick, stuff the walls before we freeze. While straw kept medieval folks insulated, it wasn't their only crafty solution for staying warm. What do you get when you combine fashion with function? The medieval approach to staying warm. People back then figured out something brilliant. Why heat the whole room when you can just heat yourself? Unlike modern times, where we expect rooms to stay at perfect temperatures, medieval folks focused on warming their bodies directly. Layers were the key. They started with linen undergarments that trapped body heat close to the skin. Next came wool tunics and leggings, followed by heavy outer garments made from thick felted wool or fur. Sheep were medieval heating superstars. One sheep could provide enough wool for a garment that kept its wearer warm even in freezing temperatures. Tests on recreated medieval wool cloaks show they can maintain warmth even when wet, a crucial feature in rainy, cold regions. Fur-lined cloaks weren't just for the wealthy. Common people used sheepskin, rabbit fur, or whatever local animals provided. The original going green wasn't recycling. It was wearing your dinner after you ate it. Gloves were often connected by strings that ran through sleeves to prevent loss. The medieval version of the mitten clips your mom made you wear in first grade. Losing a glove wasn't just inconvenient, it could mean frostbitten fingers in a world without emergency rooms. The most remarkable aspect? These clothing systems worked without electricity or fuel. While we panic when the power goes out, medieval people just grabbed another layer and carried on with their day. These wearable solutions kept people warm at night too, but sometimes you needed a little extra help getting those sheets toasty. Enter the bed warmer, a contraption that was part ingenious heating device, part potential fire hazard. Basically, your medieval ancestors played a nightly game of heated roulette with their sleeping arrangements. These clever devices came in 2 primary forms: metal and ceramic containers specifically designed to trap heat and make bedtime less teeth-chattering. Imagine a pan filled with hot coals, carefully maneuvered between cold sheets, transforming an Arctic sleeping surface into something marginally tolerable. Wealthy households took this concept to the next level by employing dedicated servants whose sole job was to pre-warm beds. Talk about a specialized career path. The process was delicate and required serious skill. Too little heat and you'd be shivering all night. Too much and congratulations, you've just turned your bedding into medieval kindling. These bed warmers weren't just comfort items, they were literal survival tools. People would carefully slide these heated containers between layers of blankets, creating small pockets of warmth that could mean the difference between a good night's sleep and potential hypothermia. Wealthy families often had more ornate bed warmers, some crafted from polished metals that reflected heat more efficiently. Brass and copper were particularly popular, not just for their heat-conducting properties, but also because they made your bed-warming device look fancy enough to impress your medieval neighbors. The technique wasn't without risks. One wrong move, and your cozy bed could transform into a dramatic fire scene. Medieval folks had to develop a special kind of nighttime spatial awareness, a skill that modern electric blanket users will never truly appreciate. With warmth secured for the night, residents could look forward to the next ingenious heating method waiting just around the corner. Tapestries weren't just fancy wall decorations for medieval nobles to show off their wealth. These fabric masterpieces were basically the medieval version of home insulation that looked good enough to make an interior designer weep. Beyond their artistic value, tapestries served a critical function in keeping medieval homes warm during brutal winter months. Thick, heavy fabrics became strategic weapons against the cold. Nobles would strategically hang these massive textile panels on stone walls, creating an unexpected barrier against drafts and temperature drops. The process was more scientific than most people realize. These woven masterpieces could block cold air from seeping through stone walls, which were notorious for letting in chilly winds that could turn any room into an icebox. Modern studies have revealed something fascinating. These decorative hangings could reduce heat loss by up to 25%. Who knew medieval decorating was basically just extreme weatherproofing with style? The materials mattered immensely. Wool, heavy linens, and densely woven fabrics worked best, trapping warm air and creating a miniature microclimate within room walls. Some wealthy households took this concept to extraordinary lengths. Entire rooms would be lined with tapestries, turning stone chambers into cozy sanctuaries. It was like wearing a really expensive wall-sized sweater that happened to tell an epic story. The themes often depicted historical battles, mythological scenes, or intricate hunting landscapes, meaning you could stay warm while enjoying a visual narrative. Beyond warmth, tapestries offered additional benefits. They absorbed sound, making large stone rooms feel less echoey. They also provided a layer of privacy in a time when personal space was a luxury few could afford. The next heating method would prove that medieval people were always looking for ingenious ways to beat the cold, no matter how unusual those methods might seem. Long before modern heating systems became a reality, medieval innovators discovered a surprisingly effective way to keep warm: the art of strategic stone heating. Forget high-tech gadgets. These folks turned rocks into their personal temperature control system. While wealthy Romans had advanced Hipparcos systems, medieval people developed their own clever heating hack that was both simple and brilliant. The technique was straightforward yet ingenious. Large stones would be carefully positioned near roaring fires, absorbing heat like natural sponges. Once sufficiently warmed, these stones transformed into portable heating units that could be strategically moved to critical areas like beds or seating spaces. It was basically the medieval equivalent of a space heater, minus the risk of blowing a fuse or causing an electrical fire. Temperature management was a serious survival skill during winter months. By moving heated stones underneath beds or near seating areas, people created localized warm zones that could retain heat for hours. The stones would slowly release their stored warmth, providing a consistent temperature that could mean the difference between a comfortable night and potential hypothermia. Different types of stones proved more effective than others. Dense, heat-retaining rocks like granite or dense limestone were prized possessions. Imagine being the medieval rock star who owned the best heat-storing stones in the village. Some households would carefully select and maintain special stones specifically for this heating purpose, treating them almost like precious technological devices. The effectiveness of this method went beyond simple comfort. It represented a deep understanding of thermal dynamics long before scientific principles were formally established. People learned through generations of practical experience how to maximize heat retention and distribution. Medieval people had another heating method that is an even more central source of warmth that would become the heart of medieval home heating. The heart of medieval home life beat within its fireplaces. These weren't just decorative features. They were survival necessities that transformed freezing homes into livable spaces. Open hearths started as simple fire pits in the center of one-room homes, smoke escaping through roof holes. Later designs moved fireplaces against walls with proper chimneys that revolutionized indoor heating. These advanced chimney systems pulled smoke upward while allowing precious heat to radiate throughout the room. Wealthy homes might feature several strategically placed fireplaces to create heat zones throughout the building. Medieval HVAC wasn't about ductwork, it was about having fireplaces in all the right places. Home safety looked different back then, too. No carbon monoxide alarms or smoke detectors graced medieval walls. If your eyes burned and you couldn't stop coughing, congratulations. You just discovered your chimney needed cleaning. While fireplaces heated the general room, medieval innovation didn't stop there. They found clever ways to make the most of that heat. Medieval people didn't just settle for cold, uncomfortable chairs. They turned furniture into personal heating devices that would make modern ergonomic designers look like amateurs. The art of heated seating was a brilliant solution to winter's brutal chill, transforming ordinary furniture into warm sanctuaries of comfort. Stone benches and chairs weren't just architectural elements, they were carefully designed heat-trapping machines. Craftsmen would hollow out seating areas with ingenious internal spaces perfect for holding hot stones or smoldering embers. Imagine sitting down and feeling warmth rising from your chair like a gentle, toasty hug. These weren't just seats, they were thermal technology disguised as furniture. The design was remarkably sophisticated. Strategically positioned near fireplaces, these seats would absorb and retain heat for hours. Some wealthy households developed incredibly complex seating arrangements. Wooden chairs would have hidden compartments lined with metal, allowing heat to circulate and warm the sitter from below. It was like having a built-in heated car seat, but centuries before cars even existed. Different materials played crucial roles in heat retention. Stone absorbed heat slowly, but released it consistently, making it a perfect material for long-lasting warmth. Wooden seats with metal linings could distribute heat more quickly, providing almost immediate comfort. Some designs incorporated multiple layers of materials to maximize heat transfer and retention. The practical benefits went beyond mere comfort. In a time when staying warm could mean survival, these heated seats provided more than luxury. They were a critical tool for maintaining body temperature during freezing winters. People could work, eat, and socialize without the constant distraction of bone-chilling cold. The next heating method would reveal another ingenious way medieval folks kept their spirits and bodies warm. Medieval kitchens were more than just food preparation zones. They were strategic heating headquarters. These culinary spaces were basically the original multi-purpose room that did more than just keep your stomach full. The placement and design of kitchens were carefully thought out to maximize warmth throughout the entire living space. Large hearths burned continuously, serving double duty as both cooking fires and home heating systems. It was like having a personal radiator that happened to make delicious bread at the same time. Kitchens were intentionally constructed near living spaces, allowing heat to naturally flow through the home. Some medieval dwellings even adopted an open floor plan long before it became a modern interior design trend. The cooking process itself generated substantial heat. Baking bread was a particularly effective warming technique. Large stone ovens would radiate warmth for hours after the bread was removed, creating a natural heating system that kept rooms toasty. Slow cooking methods like stews and roasts meant fires remained lit for extended periods, providing consistent background heat. Different cooking techniques contributed to home warming. Bread baking created intense heat that spread quickly through living spaces. Roasting meats over open fires generated consistent warmth. Medieval cooks were basically heating engineers who happened to make amazing food. The placement of cooking areas became a critical consideration in home design, with families strategically positioning their living spaces to capture maximum heat from the kitchen. The next heating method would reveal another ingenious way to chase away the winter chill. Livestock wasn't just about food production in medieval times. These animals were living, breathing heating systems. Who knew farm animals were basically the original space heaters with fur? In colder regions, the relationship between humans and animals went far beyond simple agricultural practicality. Some homes were deliberately constructed with attached barns, creating a genius heating strategy that would make modern energy engineers jealous. The body heat generated by cows, sheep, and pigs would slowly seep into living spaces, providing a consistent and natural warmth source. It was like having a bunch of furry, breathing radiators that occasionally produced milk and meat. Modern studies confirm that a single cow can generate enough body heat to significantly warm a small space. The placement of animal quarters was a carefully calculated decision. In castle designs, even specialized rooms like falconry spaces were strategically positioned near living quarters to maximize heat transfer. Larger animals like horses and cattle were particularly prized for their heat-generating capabilities. Their massive bodies could produce surprising amounts of warmth, creating microclimates within living spaces. Different animals contributed different levels of heat. Sheep, with their thick wool coats, were exceptional heat producers. Pigs, packed closely together, created dense heat zones. Imagine being a medieval farmer and realizing your livestock was doing double duty as both a food source and central heating system. The economic and survival benefits were immense. This wasn't just about comfort, it was a critical survival strategy. In regions with brutally cold winters, the heat from animals could mean the difference between survival and freezing. But the warmest heat source was much closer to home. The medieval family bed was far more than a quaint sleeping arrangement. It was a sophisticated survival strategy against winter's brutal cold. Forget privacy. In medieval times, personal space was about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Families didn't just share living spaces, they quite literally shared body heat in ways that would make modern personal space advocates shudder. Children, parents, and sometimes even guests would pile into a single sleeping area, creating a human heat ecosystem. Canopy beds weren't just fancy decorations, they were carefully engineered warming stations. Heavy curtains would trap body heat, creating a microclimate that could mean the difference between comfortable survival and freezing through the night. It was like a prehistoric version of a heated blanket, but with more snoring and potentially less hygiene. The layering strategy was an art form. Fur-lined bedrolls, multiple wool blankets, and strategic body positioning maximized heat retention. People would intentionally sleep close together, with children often placed in the middle of the family group. This wasn't just about comfort, it was a critical survival technique that had been perfected over generations. Different social classes had different approaches. Wealthy households might have multiple fur blankets and separate sleeping areas, while poorer families would literally create heat islands of human bodies. Imagine a medieval sleep strategy that was part survival technique, part human sardine can. The warmest spot was always negotiated with the intensity of a corporate boardroom meeting. Sleeping arrangements weren't just about individual comfort, they represented a collective approach to survival where body heat became a shared resource more valuable than any individual possession. A new warming strategy was about to brew. Quite literally, staying warm wasn't just about external heat. Medieval people understood the power of internal warming. Drinking hot liquids was basically medieval central heating for your body. Herbal teas, mulled wine, and heated milk weren't just beverages. They were critical survival tools against winter's brutal assault. Monks in cold monasteries perfected the art of continuous warm liquid consumption. These holy heat engineers turned sipping into a strategic survival technique. Hot broth became a lifeline, circulating warmth through the body more effectively than any external heating method. Scientific understanding wasn't necessary. Generations of practical experience had taught people that warm drinks did more than just taste good. Different liquids served different purposes. Herbal teas could provide medicinal benefits while warming the body. Mulled wine offered both alcohol's warming effect and a burst of spicy heat. It was like having a portable internal radiator that happened to taste delicious. The ritual of preparing and consuming these warm drinks became a crucial part of medieval winter survival strategies. Warmth was about to take on an entirely different dimension. Medieval people were masters of adapting to their environment, and their underground spaces proved just how clever they could be at staying warm. Cellars weren't just dark, damp storage rooms. They were strategic temperature sanctuaries that medieval inhabitants transformed into survival shelters during brutal winter months. Who needs central heating when you've got dirt as your personal thermal blanket? These subterranean spaces worked like natural thermoses, maintaining a remarkably consistent temperature throughout the year. Dug deep into the Earth's embrace, these underground chambers remained cooler in summer and warmer in winter, creating a microclimate that defied seasonal extremes. Imagine a medieval family huddled together in a cozy cellar, surrounded by stone walls that seemed to whisper ancient warmth. In regions where winter temperatures plummeted to bone-chilling levels, these underground spaces became literal lifesavers. Some families would completely relocate their sleeping arrangements during the coldest snaps, trading their drafty upper rooms for the stable, insulating environment below ground. Talk about a basement upgrade before basements were even cool. This underground strategy wasn't just about survival. It was a testament to human ingenuity in working with natural environmental principles. As the next heating method would reveal, medieval people were always finding creative ways to stay warm. Medieval inhabitants weren't just surviving, They were strategic wind-fighting champions. Natural landscape features became their first line of defense against freezing gusts. Trees, hedges, and wooden fences weren't mere decorative elements, but critical thermal shields that transformed windswept landscapes into livable environments. Wind chill, more like wind kill, medieval edition. Architectural design played a crucial role in this wind-blocking symphony. Castles and homes were meticulously positioned to minimize exposure, using surrounding terrain as massive windbreaks. Stone walls weren't just defensive structures, they were thermal barriers that disrupted wind patterns and trapped precious warmth. Some settlements would strategically plant dense hedgerows or create intricate wooden fencing networks that broke wind currents before they could penetrate living spaces. Inside these structures, room dividers and screens became sophisticated climate control tools. By creating smaller, more compact spaces, medieval residents could concentrate heat and block drafts with remarkable efficiency. Their wind-blocking techniques would seamlessly connect to yet another ingenious heating method. It's the power of a packed room. Back in those drafty castles and timber homes, people didn't have the luxury of turning a dial when temperatures dropped. Instead, they packed rooms tighter than sardines in a barrel. When your neighbor's bad breath becomes your central heating, you definitely know you're in medieval times. The science behind this is simple. Each human body puts out roughly the same heat as a 100-watt light bulb. Get 20 people in a room, and suddenly you've got 2,000 watts of free heating. Talk about renewable energy that doesn't require a windmill. Castle-grade halls weren't just built massive to show off. They were designed to hold feasts where body heat created a natural furnace. Records from the 1300s mention that during winter gatherings, chambers could warm up by 7 to 8 degrees without a single log on the fire. Nothing says successful party like guests doubling as human radiators. Many homes featured a single room where the entire family cooked, ate, worked, and slept. Those quarters might have been cramped, but nobody complained about cold feet. Just about Uncle Edmund snoring. The next time you feel cold, just remember that medieval nobility solved their heating problems by inviting everyone they knew for dinner. Free heating and free food, medieval problems require medieval solutions. Speaking of keeping things warm, medieval people didn't just rely on each other's body heat. Medieval heating innovation reached its pinnacle with the brilliantly simple yet ingenious fire dogs and reflector technology. These weren't just random metal contraptions. They were the thermal equivalent of a heat distribution superhero. Medieval engineering, turning fireplaces from lazy heat wasters into efficiency machines. Metal firebacks and fire dogs transformed hearth dynamics by doing something remarkably clever. Positioned strategically behind fires, these metal marvels reflected heat outward instead of letting it escape uselessly up chimneys. Wealthy households took this concept to luxurious extremes, crafting reflectors from polished brass or gleaming silver that not only redirected heat, but also added a touch of aristocratic bling to their living spaces. Cast iron became the working-class hero of fire reflection, providing an affordable yet effective solution for average households. These metal guardians could potentially double a fire's warming efficiency, turning a modest flame into a robust heating system. Medieval folks knew how to make a fire work harder than a corporate intern during budget season. The precision of their heat management demonstrated an intuitive understanding of thermal dynamics that would make modern engineers tip their hard hats in respect.